October 2017. Cascade Range, Washington State. The parking lot was almost empty. Cold air hung low over the trailhead like a warning that no one fully understood. Breath turned visible the moment it left the lungs. Frost glazed the wooden trail map. The forest stood silent, tall Douglas firs stretching upward into a sky that looked undecided. It wasn't a stormy morning. It was worse. It was calm. The kind of calm that makes you believe you have time. The forecast mentioned light snow above 4,500 feet. Nothing extreme, nothing that screamed danger. The hiker had prepared like any responsible outdoor enthusiast. Insulated jacket, gloves, backpack with snacks, water, phone, basic navigation, not reckless, not inexperienced, just slightly underestimating October in Washington, because in the Cascades, seasons don't transition gently, they flip. The first 2 miles were beautiful, crunching gravel, light dusting of snow on shaded patches, sunlight filtering through tree branches in fractured beams. Peaceful. The kind of peaceful that lowers your guard. At higher elevation, the temperature dropped quickly. The air thinned. Wind began to move through the ridgeline like a living thing. Snow started falling just after midday. At first it looked harmless, soft flakes drifting down slowly. Then the flakes grew larger, heavier, more frequent. The ground began turning white. But trail markers that had once stood out clearly against bark and rock were slowly blending into the landscape. Still manageable, still fine. But mountains don't give dramatic warnings. They erase gradually. The hiker reached a viewpoint, or what should have been one. Instead of sweeping mountain vistas, there was gray. Visibility was shrinking. The decision was made. Turn back now. It was the correct decision, but it was already late. The trail behind had changed. Completely. With footprints that once guided the path were already filling with snow. Within minutes, they were gone. Snowfall intensified. Wind began to swirl instead of blow in one direction. White began falling from above. White covered the ground. White reflected from every surface. Up, down, sideways. Everything became white. This is called a whiteout. And in a whiteout, your brain loses its ability to interpret depth and direction. The hiker tried following the memory of the path, left at the fallen tree, right near the rock outcrop. But those landmarks were gone, hidden, swallowed. Panic doesn't scream immediately. It whispers first. Something isn't right. Heart rate increased. Breathing became sharper. The world began to feel smaller. The hiker checked their phone. No signal. They turned slowly in a circle. Every direction looked identical. That was the moment the mountain took control. Movement. It's human instinct. When lost, we walk. But walking in the wrong direction, in deepening snow, burns energy at an alarming rate. Each step sank mid-calf. Boots packed with snow, socks dampened, wind cut through clothing. After 45 minutes of trying to relocate the trail, exhaustion set in. The realization hit harder this time. The trail was gone, and so was certainty. Light began fading faster than expected. Cloud cover thickened, swallowing what little daylight remained. The hiker had 2 options. Keep moving and risk worsening disorientation, or stop and attempt survival. They chose to stop. That decision may have saved their life. When the sun disappeared, temperature dropped instantly, below freezing, then lower. Wind amplified the cold dramatically, wind chill, cutting exposed skin like glass. The hiker gathered branches with shaking hands, constructed a shallow bed of pine boughs to insulate from the snow beneath. No, because the ground steals heat faster than air. They tucked into themselves, pulled their knees inward, wrapped arms tight. Shivering began violently. Shivering is the body's defense mechanism, rapid muscle contractions to generate heat. But shivering burns calories. Calories were limited. Hours passed slowly. The forest made unfamiliar sounds at night, branches cracking under snow load, wind moaning through trunks, ice crystals scraping bark. Every sound felt amplified. Every shadow felt threatening. Around midnight, early hypothermia symptoms began. Uncontrollable shaking, numb fingers, slurred self-talk, mental fog. The body was fighting hard, very hard, but it could not do that forever. Morning did not bring relief, only deeper snow. The storm had intensified overnight. Snow now reached knee height in some areas. Food supply was nearly depleted. Water required melting snow, but melting snow drains body heat and requires time. The hiker attempted movement downhill. A logical survival tactic: water flows down. Roads are often lower, and temperatures can increase slightly at lower elevation. But terrain was unpredictable. Hidden dips, covered rocks, fallen branches invisible beneath white. Energy expenditure skyrocketed. With every hour, physical strength decreased. Boots were now soaked internally. Frostbite risk increased. The hiker's thoughts became disorganized. Time distorted. Minutes felt like hours. And hope began thinning. Back at the trailhead, the vehicle remained overnight. Family grew worried. Authorities were contacted. Search and rescue mobilized immediately. But snowfall complicated everything. Fresh snow had erased tracks. Search dogs struggled in deep powder. Visibility from aircraft was limited due to storm systems. Rescue teams know something critical. The first 24 to 48 hours matter most, but they were racing against weather. Helicopters were grounded initially due to wind gusts. Ground teams spread along possible routes. Every decision required probability analysis. Lost hikers often travel downhill, unintentionally, or circle or shelter in place. The search area expanded. By the second night, exhaustion was extreme. The hiker's core temperature likely dropped below 95 degrees Fahrenheit, mild to moderate hypothermia. Shivering slowed. This is dangerous. When shivering decreases in cold exposure, it often means the body is losing the battle. Mental confusion intensified. The hiker reportedly later described hallucination-like moments, seeing lights through trees, hearing distant voices, believing rescue was near when nothing was there. The brain, deprived of warmth and energy, begins misfiring. Sleep became irresistible. The urge to lie down permanently grows overwhelming in hypothermia cases. The hiker fought that urge, barely. By the third day, movement was minimal, calories depleted, severe dehydration, hands nearly useless from cold, speech barely coherent. The body entered survival autopilot. Slow movements, conserve energy, avoid sweating, just survive one more hour. Above, weather briefly cleared. Search command seized the opportunity. Helicopter deployed. From the sky, snow-covered forest appears endless. Thousands of identical trees in every direction. Spotting a single human shape is nearly impossible, unless there is motion, and on day 3, there was. a faint stagger, a weak arm raised. Small, almost invisible, but enough. At first, the hiker thought it was wind. Then it grew louder, rhythmic, mechanical, helicopter blades. The sound triggered adrenaline, one last surge of energy. They stood, waved, collapsed. The helicopter circled once, twice, confirmed visual. Rescue swimmer deployed via hoist. Snow exploded in spirals beneath the aircraft. The rescuer reached the hiker, who was barely responsive. Skin pale, speech incoherent, core temperature dangerously low. They were secured into a harness and lifted. Inside the helicopter, medics initiated controlled rewarming. Hypothermia patients must be warmed gradually to prevent cardiac arrhythmias. The flight lasted minutes, but those minutes separated life and death. Doctors later confirmed severe hypothermia, advanced dehydration, early frostbite on extremities. Another 12 to 18 hours in those conditions could have been fatal. A recovery required gradual rewarming, IV fluids, cardiac monitoring, days of observation, but the psychological recovery took longer. Survivors of exposure often report nightmares of cold, fear of silence, hyper-awareness of weather, because when you felt your body begin to shut down, you never forget it. The Cascades are deceptive. Weather systems move rapidly from the Pacific Ocean. Elevation gain can mean a 20 to 30 degree temperature shift within miles. Snow can accumulate inches per hour unexpectedly. Trails disappear, cell service fails, and once whiteout conditions begin, even experienced hikers lose orientation. Mountains do not negotiate, they do not warn twice. 72 hours in freezing temperatures, minimal supplies, no shelter, no certainty. Survival in those conditions depends on small decisions, stopping instead of wandering endlessly, trying to insulate from ground, conserving energy. She holding on long enough to hear a helicopter, because sometimes survival is not dramatic. It's quiet, it's slow, it's fighting the urge to close your eyes and waiting for a sound in the distance, a sound that means you're not alone anymore. If you want the next story, subscribe now so you don't miss the next survival story.